withholding of income tax from wages under Section 3402, but who prior to such day has neither secured an account number nor made application therefore, shall make an application on Form SS5 for an account number. So, what's an account? Yeah, they call it an account number. And they also said Federal Insurance Contribution Act. That's FICA. That's that
Right.
person. Mute your mic, everyone.
Okay.
I know what I'm gonna do. I will do it. All right, if y'all can mute your mic, thank you. It's got it. All right, sorry about that. All right, let's look at what Wikipedia says about the Federal Insurance Act. It says the Federal Insurance Contribution Act is a United States federal payroll or employment contribution directed towards both employees and employers to fund Social Security and Medicare. Federal programs that provide benefits for retirees, people with disabilities, and children of deceased workers. So FICA is for retirement, people with disabilities, and children of deceased workers. Okay, so it's not just for retirement. So you might know someone or you might have someone in your home that is disabled, and that's what that money is funding, right? And they said it's a contribution. So, what's the definition of a contribution? Okay, because when I think of contribution, it's a gift or payment to common fund or collection. Donation, here's the synonyms. Is my screen big enough? I'll make it a little bigger. Donation, gift, offering, present, handout, grant, subsidy, allowance, endowment, subscription, benefaction. So, by their definition, that FICA is a gift. You're giving a gift to this FICA fund, and it's not mandatory, as they may say. You have to give up this money. You have to give away this money. Like your employer would say, and so many people with street logic would say, because the only knowledge they got is what somebody told them. Like most people on this planet, their knowledge is hearsay. So that's a contribution. Let's go back. 3. Method of application. The application shall be prepared in accordance with the form, instruction, regulations applicable thereto, and shall set forth fully and clearly the data therein called for. The employee shall file the application with the District Office of Social Security Administration, or if the employee is not working within the United States, with the District Office of Social Security Administration at Baltimore, Maryland. Form SS5 may be obtained from any district office of the Social Security Administration or from any district director. An account number will be assigned to the employee for the Social Security Administration in due course upon the basis of information reported on the application required under this section. A card showing the name and account number of the employee to whom an account number has been assigned will be furnished to the employee by the Social Security Administration. So let's break this paragraph down. This sheds a lot of light on what's going on. First of all, the only time you're supposed to even get a Social Security card is when you're getting ready to go to work, because they're telling you to apply for it when you're, going for a job. That's when you need it, and it's needed for the FICA fund if you want to give that money to FICA. So basically, if you're reading this correctly, they're saying you really don't need a Social Security card or an account number unless you're ready to give away some money. Yeah, FICA is on everybody's check, Marco. All right. FICA's been robbing y'all. Time for filing Form SS5. The application shall be filed on or before the 7th day after the occurrence of the first day of employment. It's telling you when to fill out an SS5 form. But yet, SS5 forms are filled out for children, babies. Okay. Reference made in paragraph A1 of this section. Unless the employee leaves the employer of his employer before such 7th day, in which case the application shall be filed on or before the date on which the employee leaves the employee of his employer. So it's telling you, if you're going to get a job and you want to give some money away, it needs to be done on or before the 7th day on that job, the first job you get. That's when you go get an account number. That makes sense, right? When you turn of age to go get your own account numbers, you go to the bank, you open up your own account when you're ready to put money in it. Right? 3, changes and correction. Any employee may have his account number changed at any time by applying to a district office of the Social Security Administration and showing good reason for a change. With that exception, only one account number will be assigned to an employee. Any employee whose name is changed by marriage or otherwise, or who has stated incorrect information on Form SS5 should report such change or correction to a district office of the Social Security Administration. Copies of the form for making such reports may be obtained from any district office of the administration. So, we have been misled that we need, even when you look at the 1040 and doing a tax return and you have children, they're not even supposed to have an account number yet. But they're wanting to. I think it's if they're over 2 years old, 1 or 2, you have to have a social to put on there to claim them as a dependent, or they won't give it to you. Okay. Duties of employee with respect to his account number. 1. Information to be furnished to employee. An employee shall, on the day on which he enters the employer of an employer for wages, comply with provisions of paragraph B1, 1, 2, 3, or 4 of this section, except that if the employee's services for the employer consist solely of agricultural labor, domestic service in a private home of the employer, not on a farm operated for profit, or service not in the course of the employee's trade or business. The employee shall comply with such provisions on the first day on which wages are paid to him by such employer, within the meaning of Section 31.3, 3121A-2. I suggest you guys go and read these. Whenever they refer to a code, go read it. All right? I'm not going to read it because for the sake of time. Because as you can see, these codes are extensive, and a lot of times you have to read it several times to really pick it up. Okay, now
all right, peace. What's up? What's up? What's up? How y'all doing? Get this volume down just a little bit. All right, all right. That was the IRS webinar 2. Of course, all of that information is on my website at akimel.com. Also on the new school site, SKOOL. I'm putting the link in the chat now for you. So far, just in a week's time, we had this thing does this all the time. We got what, 20 members now. A lot of my premium members, I have more people sign up that wasn't part of premium group than the ones I sent the link that could just get in. They're not checking their email. So if you are in my premium membership group, go and log in, because that's where everything will be. I'm transitioning everything from there to the site. I know it was $49.99 a month for the membership in the Teachable app. Over here, it's going to be $39.99. So I'll be shutting that down, and then you'll be able to go over there. It's more interactive. Like, it's more. Let me just share my screen real quick. See if I can. This is the app here, the community where you could just post messages. Here, this is the classroom. I just put this in the credit repair files. That's only $27 a month. And check it out, what you get with this. All of these things help repair your credit. Even there's templates on suing the debt collectors. $27 one time, and you get all of that. Everything you need. These are actually books. Most of the stuffs are books with templates in it. So a lot of resources. And of course, these two at the bottom was my very first third-party debt collector letter that stopped student loans and the no contract contact template. These two right here shut down a lot of stuff. And this was the credit repair guide that I had back in the day that was shutting down credit, help fixing credit within 30 days. So, and there's some extra stuff that is stuff I picked up along the way, extra stuff that I threw in there. $27, come on. And you can't beat that. So go to that, you can get it. I'll also put it up on akimel.com if you are not part of the membership. So you can get it off my website as well. But shoot, this fix that credit. Credit is a game, guys. I don't know why. It's such an easy game to play because you're dealing with third-party information providers. Third-party information providers are handling it, so they don't get the facts. Let's just say you have a bankruptcy on your credit. That's the easiest thing to get off is a bankruptcy because third-party interveners are putting it on your report. So all you got to do is write a letter to the courthouse and say, do you guys report? And they're going to say, no, we don't report, because that's the only way you can verify it, because they are not allowed to give out your personal information to anybody else. What they're doing is these third parties scanning court cases and throwing you on the credit report. You never gave these people permission to do that. And it comes off. So bankruptcy is not a death sentence. Okay. All right. There you have it. But let's get into what with the whole. This is Inspiration Sunday, and I'm sorry I missed last week, and I'm kind of glad I did because I did need to recharge, right? But we are in a process now. Right, this year has been one of those. It's a 9-year. 2025 is a 9-year, and we coming up on nines all. And again on the 27th, you got 9, 27, 2025 nines all the way across the board, triple nines. So things might be challenging for you right now. All it is a reset. Things are slowing down. New things. You're inviting new changes into your life, and just stick it out. Hold on. It's going to get better. It is getting better. Just remember, you will never get any further than the ideas in your mind. So if you believe in problems, you believe in losing, you believe in lack, if that's the dominant thing in your mind, you're going to have it. You're going to get everything you ask for. You're going to get everything you put your mind to. That's true. Well, how come my bank account is not looking different? Well, because you keep looking at the bank account and believe in what's actually in there. You believe in the physical. Instead of understanding what the reason why it's physically is there, because somewhere in your thought process you believe that's the amount of money you deserve. Oh, that's bull, Hakeem. That's not true. Yes, it is. Ignore the low bank account and believe in the millions and know that the bills are going to be paid. Everything's prepaid. Everything's paid. You're here, right? Still have a roof over your head. You still have food in. You have an ability to put gas in your car. You have a job. The best you can do in these trying times, if you're having them, is be joyful and thankful for the process, because it's making you stronger. Appreciate what you have right now so that you can have more later. Be thankful. So I have made a commitment. You know, when you're trying to make changes and reinvent yourself, a lot of times we make a mistake and try to do all of these things all at once. But I would suggest that you try to pick up one little extra good habit at a time. There was a time I read the Bible every day, right? But then I kind of got away from it. I read it every other day or read it as in when necessary. So now I have made it a habit to read it when I get up in the morning or at night, one or the other. And so far I've been pretty good with it. So now it's like after you do something for like past 3 to 4 days, it starts to lock in. Hey, it becomes something you remember to do. It becomes like a part of your routine. And so as I make this a habit, I make other things a habit on top. Now, this is called micro steps, atomic habits, just building on little micro movements at a time. Yes, you want to get to the millionaire status, billionaire, whatever your choices are, get to that vacation. But what is it going to take to get there? Little steps at a time. A lot of times we try to do everything at once and then it all collapses on us because you're trying too many things at the same time. No, little things. So, been reading the Bible. I started off in Samuel's. And Samuel's is an interesting book. The reason why I say it's interesting, because there's a lot of stuff going on in that book of Samuel's. And I'm sure it's in other places of the Bible. Particularly in the place where Saul and David are having their differences. There's some strange stuff going on. Like the relationship between David and one of Saul's sons. It's like David loved him. He loved David more than he treated David better than a woman would treat him. Statements like that are being made. Yes. Let me see if I can find it. See if I can find it. I should have marked it so I can find it better. But there was a couple of instances in there where, you know, his son was trying to change Saul's mind and going after David. But Saul, of course, did not change his mind. He remained stubborn in that. So he was upset. He came back to report to David what his father was planning. And they embraced and they kissed before they loved each other. This is all in this book. This is the Bible. All these strange behaviors. The other behaviors is the amount of killing that's going on in this. The wars between the Philistines and Israel. Kind of reminds me of what happening today. Like this constant war. It's always the Philistines and Israel going at it. There's a like as if what's happening now is being played out exactly the same way. And there are many instances where they go in and raid the towns of the Philistines and they kill everybody. I mean, women, children, everyone. And there was an instance where David was out to go to war because he made an alliance with the Philistines because Saul was after him. And they went out, and then some other group came into where he was and took his family captives, everybody. Then he had to go and get them. Then there was another instance where when Saul finally died, where he killed himself. He was wounded really bad, and then he killed himself by falling on his own sword. But he didn't die. So he asked someone to kill him. So that same person that killed, obliged Saul and killed him, reported back to David and told him the story, and came there, was truthful and to honor David. And he said, yeah, he asked me to kill him. I killed him. And David turned around and killed him for killing Saul, because Saul said that was one of God's anointed. You don't kill one of God's anointed. And this man came to him with hoping that he would find favor with David. He was asked to kill him by Saul. I guess you're asking, Akeem, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about these behaviors in the Bible? Because I'm sure people who are listening, majority don't even know those stories that happened. You might have you knew about the King Solomon's story. I mean, the Saul and the David dispute, but like the details, the gory details in there, where they were killing everybody, thousands. They even counted how many people was. It said Saul killed thousands and David his 10,000s. That's why Saul was jealous of David, because he was a mighty warrior. He killed a lot of people. Just the amount of bloodshed in this, just the first book of Samuel. It's probably close to, if I wanted to count, if I went through here and counted everything, it's thousands, tens of thousands of people died. Men, women, children, all together. But in the book of Samuel, not a but however, in the book of Samuel, I'm going to read something to y'all. In here, Saul, at one point, towards the end of his reign in his life, he expelled all of the wizards and the mediums. It says it. Right? It says Saul, in Samuel chapter 28, it said, now Samuel had died. Everybody knows who Samuel is. Samuel was the prophet of Jehovah, or Yahweh, as mentioned in the Bible. He was a prophet. And he became a prophet because his mom couldn't bear any children, and she said if she had a child, she would give him up to God, and that's how he became king, right? So he had a full-time service to God from the day he was born. After she weaned him, she took him over to the temple and left him there with a house full of men, because it was the prophet, I can't remember his name, and his two wicked sons. In the prophet, to me, that's weird stuff too. You leave no women. Although the two sons were messing with the women who came to give offerings. This is all in here. Like, the people would come and get offerings. They would take the offerings and they would sleep with the prostitutes. so prostitution was a thing back then too. So that's a ancient tradition, prostitution. But Samuel chapter 1 verses 28, chapter 28 verses 3. Now Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in Ramah, his own city. Saul had expelled the mediums and the wizards from the land. The Philistines assembled and came and encamped at Shunem. Saul gathered all of Israel, and they encamped all at Gilboa. When Saul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. So what's happening with Saul? Because he was no longer God's chosen one, he was not getting any visions or anything. And then on top of that, he got rid of all of the mediums and the wizards that could help him. When Saul saw the army, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. When Saul inquired of the Lord did not answer him, not by dreams or by Urim or by prophets. I don't even know, what's a Urim? Urim. We're going to do some research today. Oh, it's a sacred object. A Urim and Thummim were sacred objects in ancient Israel, possibly prophetic stones that served as a means for high priests to receive God's will and guidance, particularly for significant national decisions and legal judgments. Kept with the breastpiece of judgment. The exact composition and method of operation are not described in detail, but they functioned as an oracle, with their name traditionally interpreted as lights and perfections or revelations and truth. The Urim and Thummim are mentioned in the books of Exodus, Numbers, 1 Samuel, Nehemiah, and their ceased after destruction of the first temple. And their use ceased after the destruction of the first temple. So it's an object, some type of object to get an answer. Then Saul said to his servants, "Seek out for me a woman who is a medium, so that I may go to her and inquire of her." His servant said to him, "There is a medium and indoor." I'm going somewhere with this. I talked about all the destruction in the Bible, all of the bloodshed. I'm showing y'all something. So Saul disguised himself and put on other clothes and went there, he and 2 men with him. They came to the woman by night, and she said, "Consult a spirit for me." And he said, "Consult a spirit for me and bring up for me the one whom I name to you." The woman said to him, "Surely you know that what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and the wizards from the land. Why then are you laying a snare for my life to bring about my death?" But Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing." Then the woman said, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" He answered, "Bring up Samuel." Now Samuel had died. I'm going somewhere. Follow me. Stick with me. For me. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice. And the woman said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." The king said to her, "I have no fear. What do you see?" The king said to her, "Have no fear. What do you see?" The woman said to Saul, "I see a divine being coming up out of the ground." He said to her, "What is his appearance?" She said, "An old man is coming up, and he is wrapped in a robe." So Saul knew that it was Samuel, and he bowed with his face to the ground and did obeisance. Then Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me here? Bringing me up?" Saul answered, "I am in great distress, for the Philistines are warring against me, and God has turned away from me and answers me no more, either by prophets or by dreams. So I have summoned you to tell me what I should do." Samuel said, "Why then do you ask me, since the Lord has turned from you and become your enemy? The Lord has done to you just as he spoke by me, for the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor David. Because you did not obey the voice of the Lord and did not carry out his fierce wrath against Amalek, therefore the Lord has done this thing to you today." What happened in Amalek, he was instructed to destroy everything. Women, children, men, the soldiers. Don't even take their cattle. No, there was not to be taken. They were not to take any spoils from this war. Instead, he killed everybody, but they kept the spoils, and that from that day, the Lord turned on him because he didn't follow his instructions. And that's when he decided David would be king. Moreover, the Lord will give Israel along with you into the hands of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me. The Lord will also give the Lord of Israel into the hands of the Philistines. Did y'all hear what he just said? This is Samuel being raised or conjured up by a medium telling him this and said, why have you brought me up from here? Let me shut the music off because I'm really, this is why you have to read. Let's set the let me set the scene. Let me read it again. Or say it again. Samuel is dead. A medium comes up, and at first Samuel says, why have you disturbed me and brought me up? Then he gives a prophecy, said he's going to die, and you're going to come here to be with me. You're going to hang out with me. Now, God had turned on Saul, but he said, let me read again. He said, the Lord will give Israel along with you into the hands of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me. So there's a couple of things going on here. Now, when I grew up, the way I was taught, there was, Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in a burning, fiery place of hell. Hell is just simply dying and being conscious of nothing. Whereas in other religious Christianity sects, they believe in a burning hell. But also, Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in life after death. Like, you're not going to be raised up, you don't become a spirit, you're just gone. You cease to exist. Whereas other groups believe that you're going to go to heaven. Now, I just read the proof of what the Bible says. This is not what I'm saying, that although Saul had no favor in God's eye and he was given the kingdom and he would die, he was going to go hang out with a prophet who was holy. Because the lady said said, I see a divine being. He said, you're going to come be with me. Now, here's the point I'm trying to make. All the years I've been introduced to the Bible in church, I've been in churches, no one ever talks about this. No one ever talks about the mediums and the wizards that God's people used. And it's a wonder why they didn't talk, because even in Egypt, when Moses went to Egypt, he threw a staff on the ground and turned into a big snake. They were doing all kind of magic. But here we live in this culture, they try to tell you not to use your magic, not to use your power. I want you to understand something. The reason why this culture, especially the European Caucasian culture, has told you not to use your power, because if you use your power, they cease to exist or cease to have power over you. This is biblical. I'm reading it right out of the Bible. They practice all of these things. If you don't believe me, go read go read it for yourself. And that's not going to be the only place. Before Christ even hit the scene and did any miracles, there was other people raising people from the dead in the Old Testament. They conjured Samuel up. She saw him. He came and gave a prophecy because God wouldn't talk to him. So we had someone who had the power, the frequency to conjure him up. And especially, they don't want the women using these powers. See, this is why this system has captivated the minds of the women to get them to serve their purposes got them thinking that their college degrees is the power that they need, when all they need is the power of God, the power that God gave them, or the true God gave them. See, they made them forget about Sophia. They made them forget about what the matrix really is. See, the attack was always towards the feminine. Because who did he go to get this revelation, to get this vision? He went to a woman medium to get it. He knew exactly where to go. And the reason why he ran them out of the land, because they were, all of the prophecies were saying his kingdom was done. He was over with. His days were numbered. And he didn't want to hear the truth. But he finally gave in and went and found one, and she told him, and he accepted his fate. No, see, that's what where y'all wrong. God didn't say nothing about this. About he said, don't worship other gods and their idols. That's what he said. But then when you get in the New Testament, when the Europeans got a hold of the Bible, they start telling you, no, you have to do it this way. And God, all throughout here, that's all they did. And they carried oracles. They did rituals. They did sacrifices. They did everything they did. When they won, they did sacrifices. Before they even did anything, they did their sacrifices and their offerings. Charles Bryant, before you start asking questions, you need to go read the Bible, which I've read this. I'm reading the Bible again. This is going to be my third time. Thoroughly. Read it. Because then you got to understand these apostles, John and all of them, these European names, those are newcomers. John wasn't even around when Jesus was around. So-called, what they call Jesus. Yahshua. That's the true name. Was around. From what I'm seeing in the older testaments, when they followed all of these traditions, they did very well. So here's the comparison. We following the traditions of the New Testament, and look how we are as a people now. Am I missing something? Am I missing something? When our people, because this is our people, this is our history here in the Old Testament. When we follow these traditions, we thrived. Even though a lot of times we went against God and he turned on us because we didn't follow his voice. But long as we followed our God, we did well. Now we're following, for the most part, following all of the traditions of the New Testament, and we're not doing so well. Just what do you have to say to that? I'll wait for somebody to comment in the chat. Because Charles Brown, didn't God say, do not believe in witchcraft? The witchcraft and the rituals of other gods. Okay? But this is all they did. Summon up a prophet. And a lot of y'all don't realize they told in the New Testament, they told y'all the truth about what happens. Okay. Y'all remember this stuff is edited. Extremely edited and revised. Extremely. Hang on. Let's go. We're going to get a Bible lesson today. We're going to get Let's go. Okay. This is when Jesus died, like when he was sacrificed. Yeshua. Mm. I'm trying to get. Trying to get to the place when after he died, what happened? See. So it must be in Matthew. Hang on. Because after he had died, all of the saints was resurrected. They started seeing people who had died showed up in different places. Here it is right here. In Matthew's, I'm going to start at 45. 27:45. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land. Now it became dark. And about 3:00, Jesus cried with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, this man is calling for Elijah. At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the other says, wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks were split, the tombs also were opened, and many bodies of saints who had fallen asleep were raised. They don't preach that in the church. So there was a resurrection after he had this story. There was a resurrection right then and there. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city and appeared to many. I remember I read this a while back. And people said, wait a minute. Because y'all sitting there listening to preachers preach to you instead of reading this stuff for yourself. Because people that I know that read the Bible thoroughly and understand, like read it, they have a whole new understanding of the Bible. Me personally, you're not really doing yourself a good service if you don't read this thing cover to cover. And if you don't have more than one version of it. Especially you need to have those older versions. I probably got 10 Bibles around here somewhere, at least. And I'm still looking for more. I'm still working on that. They have an Ethiopian version on Amazon. I don't think that's going to do what I need. I need to get an actual authentic copy of it. The point I'm trying to make when it comes to the Bible, it has all your remedy in here. Your remedies in here. Because everything this country do is based off of this. When they created the religious protections for this country, they created the religious protections to protect Protestant Christians. Yes. That sect, that particular sect. Because the Catholics and the other ones, because it was at that time when the inception or the creation of this formation of this country, it was different sects of Christians in those colonies going after each other. Because you don't believe my version, you're not right. So they said religious freedoms. They weren't thinking about Muslims, Judaism, and stuff like that. They were thinking about protecting one particular sect of people. So they created that and put it in the Constitution. But the bigger point is for our people, and I'm gonna say it again. When we were following the traditions of the Old Testament, we did well. When we follow traditions of the New Testament, we're not doing well. And I'm not just talking about us here in this country. I'm talking about, Mexico, Puerto Rico, or all these other countries who are following the new form of Christianity today are not doing well as a whole, as a people. But there is a group of people that follow this stuff, that New Testament stuff, the Old Testament stuff. They're doing their rituals every day. They're they're giving their first fruits when they make money. Yes. There's a group of people that do it, and they're doing well. Not to say I'm in the support of any one group. What I'm in support of is doing things that give you prosperity. That's what I'm in support of. Tuesday's show, we're going to talk about bankruptcy and why you should not think of it as a negative thing. That's Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. There you have it. I read this stuff out of the Bible, and it's like some of the things that they were doing basically is happening today, and I'm not going to be very specific about it. Like, they just went in and just killed everything, leave nothing to stand, nothing. It was like, whoa. Women, children, no one was spared. No one. And here's the thing. Here's something. And as he turned away to leave Samuel, God gave him another heart, and all these signs were filled that day. When they were going from there to Gibeah, a band of prophets met him. See, you just know about the prophets that they talk about, but they said a band of prophets met him, and the Spirit of God possessed him, and he fell into a prophetic frenzy along with them. See? A prophetic frenzy. It's right here. It's all here. Y'all do what y'all want with that information. But all I know is when we were living like the Old Testament, we did well. When we living like the New Testament, we're not doing so well. And anybody who had disagree with me, I welcome your comments. Tell me. Tell me. All right. I'm sure nobody could. Because if you got common sense, you'll know. All right. With that being said, this is the end of my talk about the Bible. I suggest you read it, because there's some very good practical things that you could do in it that protect you. One thing is setting up trust, creating your own church. Make your own home a temple of God. Stop looking for the temple to be a building. The temple is your home. The first thing, temple, is you, then your home. And practice these things daily. This is why we're in a state of confusion and unrest, because we don't have a system in place. We don't have a real religious system in place. We have what this system has given us as a system of religion, and follow that. We haven't created our own for ourselves in our homes. And the only way you're going to be able to do this, you got to read these things. You got to read it. First of all, how do you call yourself a true person of God and you ain't reading the books they say they come from. Although I know a lot of this is edited and revised and stuff like that. But if you read it and you have a spiritual eye, because there's scriptures in it said, let the spirit talk to you. The truth is always revealed by way of revelation through visions, circumstances that pop up, dreams. That's what was happening. At dreams, Saul could not even get a dream. He was shut off from God. My point is start relying in the power that God gave you, the connection that you can make so that you can have the dreams, you can have the visions, so that you can see the path that you need to take. Because everybody's capable of it, but you can be cut off from it because of your belief systems, because you're not practicing it. Samuel had to go, he lived all of his life in the service of God, in the temple. So he was definitely well practiced. Saul became he was favored by God to be the king, first king over Israel. And the only reason why Saul became king over Israel is because the Israelites came to Samuel and begged him to put a king over them. When God was their king, and God was like, I gave them all of these things. And they want a physical man king. He said if they get a king, they're going to have problems. And he did. Ever since they had a king, they had problems. But he gave them what they asked for. They had great kings and then they had bad kings. But that's what they wanted. Yeah, so I was just reading the comments. Someone came and said something, but I'm not sure. They're off topic. Good forenoon, everyone. The foundation to owning property is ownership of your labor. Words of the day. Well, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Sound like they're a Trump supporter because they got Trump in their name. But anyway. All right, with that being said, I'm out. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I got things to do. I know you got things to do. Start putting your house in order. If some of you who got your trust set up, your churches set up, start open up the bank accounts and start working through that. All right. Peace, prosperity, extreme wealth to everyone. Y'all have a good one. I'm out.